Mr. Michael Stone, how are you?
I am fine, sir.
You're
I am
fine.
fine, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here keeping busy.
Well, I know you're busy because just before we started the show, you shared with me what's going on behind your right shoulder there. And by the way, for people listening to the audio, this is a YouTube video as well. And
Huh?
that's fly tying equipment behind you, isn't it?
That's a bunch of it. I got a couple flies I've tied here.
And
There's
what's
one
this one here?
that's a crawdad imitation. And
Crazy. That's a lot of work in that one.
this is about an hour and a half to tie that on
Wow.
that one.
Yeah.
And then I got another little one here that everybody should be familiar with if they know anything about fishing, and that's a parachute Adams.
Parachute Adams. That's a great locator fly, dry fly.
Yeah.
Do you do lots of dry fly?
Oh, I do a little bit of whatever. My son and I go down to the Gulf of Mexico or down to South Andros Island or what do you call it, Belize, and fish for all the shallow water,
I love it.
saltwater fish. Oh yeah, we just have a grand time, and it gives us time together, and so it's
Nothing better.
it's a great. I've been tying since 1968, so I've got a few hundred of them behind me.
A little while.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe after the show, we'll talk about my upcoming trip. I'm going to be going to fish for bonefish in Molokai next year.
Bonefish in Molokai?
That's right. Yeah. See, most people don't know that you can fish for bonefish in Molokai. It's one of the Hawaiian islands.
Oh yeah, I know where it is. I used to live in Maui, so I.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't know they had bonefish over there.
Well,
that makes sense though.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's start with hey, Michael Stone. Who the heck are you, and how is it you come to be talking to all these contractors?
Well, that goes all the way back to when I first started in this business, which was about 1950, and
Wow.
I was a little guy, and I had a job of sweeping the floor in my dad's shop. And
what kind of shop was it?
It was an electrical contracting business. He did a lot of big commercial street lighting jobs all over the Midwest, and rewired 2 or 3 Air Force bases. He had a pretty good sized shop.
Oh boy.
Anyway, I worked my way up, and I got where I started doing estimating in 1954 with him, and then on through high school and working in the trades, one thing and another. I got where I'd done a lot of work in the various trades and stuff that were out there. You name it, I've done it. I've had a plumbing supervisor's card for 14 years, and
so you're an electrician and a plumber.
Yep, that, and I've done framing and roofing and siding and windows and doors and concrete and excavation. And I tried to saw my thumb off. As you can see that ridge right there.
I can see that right through the middle.
Right through a table saw. Boom. Yeah, and you insert thumb, and red comes out everywhere. So I've done a lot of that stuff, and so eventually, I got to think, I don't want to do this the rest of my life, because I was coming home and I had nail holes on the top of my head from being crawling around, and somebody'd say something, you say what, and your head would go up and whack into a nail off the floor above you. And so I gradually worked out of that, and I took some, started studying sales and business management, and just kept going until I'd worked my way up into the companies I'd worked for. And eventually I ended up with my own company. And
what kind of company?
It was a remodeling company. It didn't work out that well, but the economy wasn't that good. And I wasn't, I hadn't learned enough lessons yet. So
okay.
I went working for other companies, and gradually I got, we had our own company, and Craftsman Book Company. I'd written a little the predecessor to this book here. I wrote it was a comb-bound book, and I wrote that in Craftsman Book Company. Got a hold of it, and they called me and asked me if I would rewrite it. And they said they had the kind of an outline of what they wanted. I said sure. So nice. 2 years later, we got it done and published it out the door. And almost immediately, I had to make a decision whether I wanted to keep on with the construction company or go do seminars and lectures and classes and consulting.
Well,
and,
yeah.
I'm lazy. I don't like to work hard. So I decided to go with the seminars and stuff. And I think it was a good choice. This work is just as hard as hammering and banging on jobs all day long.
And you still have to stay on top of things because things change.
Oh, mercy.
Michael, you held up the book very quickly. So for people listening on the podcast, I want to point out Michael's the author of Markup and Profit. Contractor's Guide Revisited.
Yep,
there you go. So that's the book there. So the reason you're here is because you're an expert on markup and profit. And you've got Profitable Sales, a contractor's
guide. Yep. So we did them both. And then I over the years, I don't necessarily specialize in one thing, but I've taught estimating in 44 different states to, a conservative guess is 20,000 contractors. And what that, and it isn't the number of contractors, it's the feedback you get when you give a presentation and the guys try your stuff and they'll write back a letter and they'll say, I tried this and it worked great. I tried this and that didn't work so good. And how do you do this and how do you do that? So you start to think about over 30 years of teaching estimating and people sending you feedback constantly. I mean, stuff coming in 2 or 3 times a week, you're getting. Pretty soon you figure out what works and what doesn't. And of course, that's what led us to our new book that we've got out. So,
hold on, you've got another book now, because you've already got 2 published. What's the next one going to be called?
Yeah, this one's coming out now. It's Estimating Construction Profitably, and it's a book on not doing the numbers of the estimate, but developing a system so that you can do the takeoff, do the numbers, and get a good result every time. And that's what most contractors won't take the time to develop a good system. And if they would, they'd find that they'd increase their profitability on their jobs.
I was just going to say, how does a contractor know if they don't have a working system? What are the signs in their business that it's not working?
There's only one that needs to look at, and that's the net profit on your profit and loss statement. If it isn't 8% plus, you don't have a good estimating system, I'll guarantee you.
And that's 8% after everything. That's cash in the front of your jeans, front pocket of your jeans.
Yep. Yeah, you pay yourself a salary.
Yep.
And you pay yourself for working on jobs if that's what you're doing. And on top of that, after everything is all said and done, all the bills are paid, you still have 8% of the total sales price that you sold. At least if you have that, then you got a good system. If you don't have it, and frankly, most contractors don't. I think the home builders, they put out a note several years ago that their average remodeler makes 1.5% net profit, and their average new home contractor only makes 3.5 or 4% net profit.
The problem with averages, though, Michael, is that half do better than that and half do worse.
Not
just an average. It's what I mean. But it's just an average, right? There's some people who do. Some people make fantastic money as contractors.
Oh yeah,
great money, and then others struggle. And we on this show, that's exactly what we talk about. Why do some struggle, and why do some make it look easy? Why is that? And what you're here to help us today is to tease that apart. Let's get into this construction estimating. If I want to rebuild my construction estimating process, what do I need to do as the owner of a company?
Well, the first thing that I would say was, all right, let's take a look at your system. What steps do you take to come up with the final number to present to your customer as the sales price for your job? And, and that includes things like, the bottom line is that a good estimate requires a system. Okay. And here's the secret to a successful estimating system. You have a process that you go through every single time where you do the same thing, the same way every time. You don't deviate from it. You don't have to. If your system is right, you don't have to deviate from it. Whether it's an $800 repair job or it's an $800,000 house.
Right.
If you've got a system set up, you just go right down, boom, 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 right down the steps. When you're done out the door, you've got a job that you can sell and make good money on. When I say good money, I'm talking 8% net profit. We have a number of coaching clients that make our average coaching client probably making in the 10 to 12% net profit. And we have a number every year that get up in the 20s. A couple of years ago, I had 2 guys that were up over 30% net profit on the jobs they did. And these guys
those are my favorite reports to look at.
$3 and $4 million a year. And that's pretty good money.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So how do you take me back to build a system if I don't have one? Like, do we start to build this on paper? Because I'd like the people listening to understand, how do I break this apart? Let's assume I don't have a system. Walk me through how to build a system.
Well, the first thing you need to do is you got to take into account how you approach looking at a job. So the first thing you do is you sit down and you write out everything that you should do from the time the first phone call comes in,
Right. Okay.
right through the end of the job, clean up, hand the folks the keys to the door. They say, thank you very much, hand you a check and give you a referral to the next guy. All right.
I love it.
You got to have a whole system. As soon as you get that basic written out, then you start building checklists. And that's something very few contractors do.
Right.
When I say checklist, I'm talking about, all right, here's a checklist. What questions do you ask on a phone call? You put those down. All right. You see, do I have, I'm just looking here if I had something. No, I don't have what I wanted. Then your estimating sheet that you do the takeoff is a checklist.
Right.
And each category here, let me show you here. Maybe this will help a little bit. Hang on, I got to tear this off the wall. I've got it up here so I don't forget.
Sure.
All right.
There you go.
Over here,
a nice,
right,
simple checklist. Yeah.
Yeah. You see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right on. This is exactly how you build a job right there.
Right.
Starting up your general conditions, all right, demolition, okay, excavation, concrete, masonry, roofing, siding, windows, right on down the line.
Yeah.
And each one of those should have its own checklist. So you remember the thing. As an example, excavation. Are you excavating for a new home? Or are you excavating for remodeling? Okay. Now you're all right. So do you own the equipment to do the excavating, or are you going to have to rent it? All right. When you say you own the equipment, all right, how are you going to get the equipment to the job site? Are you going to have to rent a trailer, or do you own a trailer that you can put it on and do it? All right. How about does the equipment, when it leaves the last job and comes to your job, do you have to power wash it so you don't get mud and dirt on the streets and stuff?
Right.
Okay. Or do you bring it to the job? Okay. How you get it in the backyard if you're going to do excavation for a room addition? You got to tear the fence down. Do you have to move trees? You're going to have to get along with the neighbors. Do they have kids? Do they have dogs and cats? All these things you got to check. Okay. All right, now let's back up 1 second. We can't do excavation until we know for sure that we got the proper setbacks on the property. So where are the corners? Okay. And can the owner confirm them? And do they have, does the owner need a survey? And if they do you have language in your contracts that says to the owner, if you ask us to help you with the survey, is there language in your contract that says they have to pay you for that? Anytime you put in, they pay you $150 an hour payable every Friday for any work you put in, getting their survey done for them. It doesn't come out of your pocket. And most contractors never even think of that.
Yeah. They just eat the cost.
See, that's what I mean about checklists. You got to be that detail oriented. Yeah. It holds true with framing. It holds true with roofing. It holds true with concrete. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. Painting. It's when you have those checklists, there's confidence. And a lot of people think, oh, you're just trying to control everything. Well, the control actually gives you more freedom because you're not wasting time thinking, did I ask about the setbacks? Did I ask about a buried oil tank? Did I ask about lines and access? Did I ask about easements?
Buried
you already know the
tanks.
answer. What's that?
Buried oil tanks. Are you kidding me? Do you know what those things cost to take out now?
To take out, I know.
Over in Portland, Oregon, we live northeast of Portland, Oregon, about 30 miles. You go over in Portland, Oregon, and tear out an oil tank. They'll send an inspector out to check the soil around that tank. And if it's polluted with oil, you keep digging until it's all gone. Then you get to pay for backfilling the hole.
Yeah.
You think that doesn't get spendy? I mean, I've seen them taking yards and yards and dump truck loads out of a yard.
That's right. It's a trade. That in its own is a construction trade, removing oil tanks. But that's an example of something that could catch a contractor unaware and cost them money, or even if it doesn't cost you money, it costs you the relationship with the client because it's their oil tank, it leaked, but you suddenly are the one who.
It's your fault.
Yeah, you're the one. All the way down to my cat got out. Well, what? How am I suddenly responsible for your cat? Well, your guys came in and didn't close the door, and I told you. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right, Mrs. Jones. It's our fault the cat's gone.
Yep.
What do we do?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So these checklists are really important. So what I like to do the same thing is have people write down, I call it a flow chart. How is a job going to go? It doesn't matter which job. I wonder if you see the same thing I do, but I'll hear this from people from time to time. They'll say, well, Dom, we're a custom renovator. We're a custom home builder. We're a custom cabinet shop. No two jobs are the same. And in my mind, I'm saying, BS. but
Yeah,
I
they
have
are.
to smile. But they're this. I know. I understand the output is custom, but the process is the same. A
Exactly
custom
the
home
same.
still has to be measured, excavated. You have to build a foundation.
Yep.
You still have to go through the steps. So don't get
That's-
caught up in your ego thinking we're a custom home builder. We're different. I get it, sure, but there's still a process you follow.
Different than what?
How do you mean?
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Different,
Yeah.
different what? You know, who are you to say that you're different than anybody else? Did you go out and you watch them stand there and watch them build their jobs? I highly doubt it. Do you go in their office and read and look through their books? I highly doubt it. How can you say you're different than anybody else? You don't know. You know, and this is, but you shouldn't even be worried about those things. What you worry about is, how am I approaching this job? What do I need to know about the job? Go down my checklist all the way down to the bottom on each one of them. And guys say, oh, I don't have the time for that. Oh, but you have the time to, when you get a quote from a plumber at $2,800 for the work you're having him do, and you've got 1,000 on your estimate sheet, you've got time to go out and get quotes from 17 other plumbers, hoping that one of them will come in at $1,000. Okay. That's just nonsense. It should never happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so
I mean, it happens because we get busy. It happens because we estimate wrong. It happens because we don't have subs we trust, or subs who trust us. You know, they're so busy right now. They're going to deal with the guys that'll pay them the most. So you can't just guess on an estimate.
Pay them the most, yes, but more importantly, pay them on time.
Mm-hmm.
The average subcontractor today has to wait 58 days for his pay from the day he invoices a general contractor for the work he did. That to me is just, there's no nice way to say it. That's dishonest.
Yeah.
You're using his money for 58 days and he went on, he's got a family fee just like you do.
Yeah.
That he should, 5 to 7 working days, you should have a check off to him. It should not be more than that.
What kind of things have you seen people put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen, or if it's happening, to stop it from continuing?
What I tell the specialty contractors, you know, you make an agreement up front. All right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to pay me. Well, we only pay 30 days. Thank you very much. Take your business somewhere else. You want to pay me within 3 working days of the day that my work gets done? We got something to talk about. Okay, I'll pay you. Well, come 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. Don't even worry about it. Just go put a lien on the job. That stops the job cold right there. I'm serious. I'm dead serious about that.
I don't disagree with you.
A man makes an agreement, you better keep it. I don't care if it's in writing or verbal. You make an agreement with me, you keep it or don't make it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I can tie up a job real quick. I mean, I've got 60 years in this business. I know how to tie jobs up real quick.
Yeah. Let me just say something back. Let's do a kind of a role play situation, Mike.
Sure.
So you've just said to me, you're the advisor, and you said, Dom, go put a lien on that property or that job. Mm-hmm. I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, but Michael, I don't want to put a lien on it. Those guys might give me business in the future.
No, they won't. Not the kind of business I want. Now, remember, there's the clarifier. I don't want that kind of business. If I have to ask somebody for my money that's due, rightfully due, I did a good job, passed the inspections, it's ready to go, then I should be paid. If you don't want to pay me, why am I doing business with you? Why does my stomach need those kind of knots? I don't think so.
No, not at all.
No.
It's interesting though, because we're proud of the work we do. There's I would imagine every contractor listening to this show has done extra work they didn't bill for because they thought they were being nice. They stabilized something. They saw something that needed to be fixed. They just fixed it. Didn't tell the homeowner yet. In some cases, that homeowner came back and said, you didn't do X, you didn't do Y. You were late on the job. Go ahead.
Get over it. You do what's on your contracts. You do it to the best of your ability and stop right there.
Yeah.
Your job is done. Oh, well, I can do this. How many jobs is the average customer going to call you for? The most I've ever had is 4 jobs for one customer. Okay. Most of the time it was one job. And I did the last 3 years we were in construction we had a construction company going. The last 3 years we had 0 complaints, not one.
Right.
Okay. None of them ever called me for more work. So
Yeah,
quit trying to be a nice guy. Start being a businessman, make money, take care of your family.
Oh, that's what we talk about on the show.
Yeah.
I want people to listen so they can be a business person who happens to be a contractor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that question about leaning a property, I understand it takes a little bit of work, but it's not a lot of work, but it also shows you're serious. Now, on my side, I have to have done the right things. I had to have an agreement that's clearly outlines the payment terms.
Mhm.
I have to have met the terms of the contract. You know, if I was supposed to dig a hole, I dug the hole where it was supposed to be dug, as deep as it was supposed to be, etc.
Mhm.
But once I've done all those things, yeah, go back and lien the property. And let me ask you this: have you ever seen a crazier time in construction? It is so busy out there.
I have, like I mentioned a minute ago, I've been in this business 60 years now, coming up on, in fact, June 15th, it'll be 61 years I've been in this business. I have never seen more work available to the construction community in my life than I am seeing right now. And if you aren't up to here with work, in fact, up to here with work, more work than you can possibly handle, you're doing a whole bunch of things wrong.
Yeah.
It isn't the buying public.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I'm going to have to do an episode, Michael, for people, because I do hear from people from time to time who say, Dom, we're actually not busy. We could take on more work. I'll probably have to do an episode for that piece of the audience. But by and large, people are busy and overbooked.
Yep. Usually what happens right now and for the last several years, the best marketing you can do is have a good web page. That's where most of your good business is going to be off of a web page. And so, and a lot of contractors think, oh, well, I just spent $8,000. I got a good web page. How many leads you getting? Well, let's see. We had one last month. That's not a good web page. Good web pages will get you 3 to 5 leads a week. And I'm not talking garbage leads. I'm talking good leads.
Yeah.
I've got a number of coaching clients that get 3 to 5 leads a day.
There's so many things that it depends on, but yet your site has to be updated and
daily.
It's got to be relevant.
Yep.
And you have to have, I mean, there's some technical things there. It's funny. We just talked about that very subject today on a class that I teach called 30-Day Construction Business, which helps people turn things around in 30 days. And today we happen to be talking about online marketing, search engine optimization, and having a clean website that tells people what to do. I want you to click here. I want you to book an appointment with me. I want you to call this number, whatever it is, but you have to be clear or they won't know.
You got to just grab them right here
and grab them by the nose and pull them.
Yeah.
Let's go back because today we're here to talk about construction estimating, and you wrote that book called Markup and Margin. What's the title of that book? It's Markup and Margin.
Very good.
Markup and Profit. I find that people get confused when they talk about their multiplier. They're not using the right number, or they're not sure how to come up with a number. And in some cases, they might be shy to charge the right number. Guide us through this markup and profit conversation.
Okay. You never sell based on price. If you do, you're not going to stay in this business. You won't. Not possible. Okay. You sit down, you figure out what your markup is. You use that markup on every single job you sell or more, never less. You never cut your price for anything.
It's the minimum, right?
Absolutely, right. And in most cases, like general remodeling contractors, your minimum markup should be 1.50 times your cost. Now, and I've been telling people for the last year, it should be 1.55 or 1.6 times your cost because of all the extra stuff that's happened because of this COVID nonsense that's flying around. It's going to cost your price of your jobs to go up.
Right.
Now, if you want to use a gross margin to calculate your sales price, you can do that. But that takes a lot more math, and only about 4% of all contractors use gross margin to calculate the sales price. And usually that's an ego thing with them. And I tell them, forget that. Go use markup. Job cost times markup equals sales price. And you're not in business to sit and do math. You're in business to sell your service and make a profit doing it. You're not in business to sit there and calculate numbers and show everybody how smart you are. Forget that crap. This in chapter 3 in this book, I just grab you by the nose and walk you step by step right through how to come up with your markup. It works every time.
Yeah.
It's nothing magic about it. It's just a matter of, and now the guy says, oh, I got to be competitive. No, you don't have to be competitive. What you have to be is profitable.
That's right.
You have a choice to be in.
I'm so glad you said that.
Well, you have a choice of being competitive. You do not have a choice of being profitable. You're either profitable or you're gone.
That's good.
Simple.
Let's say that. Well, let's say that again. You have a choice. Talk about these two choices again so people catch it, so people hear it.
You have a choice of being competitive. You do not have a choice of being profitable. You're either profitable or you're gone. And when I say profitable, I'm talking, if you're floating around, you're making 2 or 3 or 4%. That's not profitability to me. That's that you're skating right on the thin edge of going right out of business.
You might as well get a job.
Yeah, a heck of a lot less work.
Easier to get a job,
and you can sleep at night, and you don't have knots right there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you like to work on markup. I like to work on margin, but what I do most like to work on is profitability. I don't care how we get there, because people do have different formulas. It's just a different way of representing the same thing. But knowing our numbers and understanding our numbers is a challenge throughout the whole industry. And I think it's in a lot of cases, it's because we didn't go to school saying I wanted to be a math guy. I didn't go to school wanting to be an accountant. I went to school. I'm good with my hands. I know how to build stuff. I find joy and pride. I love building stuff. I'm really good at it. And now you want me to do the math, Rubino? I'm like, yeah, we got to do the math so that your kid needs braces. I didn't make them need braces. They need braces. And for them to get their braces, you've got to be profitable. For you to be able to serve that customer and go back and take care of them later, you need to be profitable.
Oh, that's exactly right. Kids, they got to eat. It's funny about kids. You set them up to the table and you don't put food in front of them, they get kind of cranky. Same with your wife or significant other or whoever. I mean,
and even the ways that we want to give back in the world. I can't tithe unless I can give.
That's exactly right.
Right? I have to be able to give. And so that profit goes to a lot of great places.
Yeah. I've got a formula in this book on how do you know if you're making good money. Yeah. And there's like a 5-step process in there on to do it. And most contractors can't do it. And we have a 2-day class we used to do, and I did 58 of them around the US, and I put that up there and show everybody. And nobody's ever able to do it the first time. After a while they can, because they start focusing on what's important.
And we probably have many of the same tools, you and I. One of the key tools that I use is an end of job report. And all that is estimated versus actual.
Job costing.
But you got to get into it. It's fine to have the form. I could email everybody the form right now, but if you don't know how to use it and you don't use it, you don't do the important things with it,
My wife Devin is in the process right now of finishing up a very, very simple job costing software program. And I don't know when she's going to have it done. It shouldn't be too much longer. She's been working on it for a couple of years now. But if the contractor would take, and if they know the difference between their estimated costs and actual costs, then you can go back into your estimate and adjust at what I call an error factor. In other words, if you have, your error factor is 5.5%. That's how much you're off every estimate you do. Then what you just do is simply go back into your total cost, job cost, not sales price. You go back into your job cost, add 5.5% to that, then mark it up and go sell the job. You're going to find that all of a sudden your profitability goes just like that.
That's right.
And it's so simple to do. You don't have to be a mathematician to do this stuff, but you do have to pay attention to the numbers that
matter. You have to pay attention to the numbers that matter.
Yeah.
There's a crazy number that I help people with, and it's called change orders per X. And so it takes a little bit of time in the field, which most of the people listening here have. But if I know that when I go do work for Michael Stone General Contractors, let's say you're luxury fine home builders, when I bid on work for you, I also know that every time I bid on work, there's change orders. Well, I can figure out after a time, for every $100,000 worth of work, I'm going to get 10,000 in change orders. So as soon as I start to realize that number, change orders per X, the next time I go to bid on you and it's a competitive situation, I'm always going to come in low, because I know that Michael Stone jobs always have $10,000 for every $100,000 worth of work. That's going to be change orders. And I don't know if you're the same, but we don't bid change orders at the same rate we bid the initial job. How many fingers are you holding up there?
Times two.
So give us the why behind that. So you charge double the profit margin on a change order than you would on a regular.
You take your job costs, and it can range anywhere. What I really teach in my classes, if you're using you're doing remodeling and you have a change work order, if your normal markup is 1.5 times cost, now your change work order should be 1.7 times cost or higher. right? New home construction should be about the same, should be about anywhere from 15 to 20 points higher on the work that you do. And the other factor you got to throw in here is the customer. What kind of attitude do they have, and how often do they want changes? See, I'm a firm believer that change work orders, when we were in business, the last 3 years we were in business, we had one change work order every 5 jobs.
Okay. So you had a number.
Because I knew how to ask questions, and I'd ask questions. I'd drive them nuts. Did I lose business because of that? Of course I did. I don't care. If they wouldn't give me the answers, that they wouldn't take the time to think it through. Now I knew they weren't going to take the time down the road, and they're going to expect me to pay for it. And the answer was no. Okay.
Yeah.
So change work orders were, to me and our company, were almost a no-no. Okay. It was 1 out of every 5 jobs we did.
Yeah.
And that can be, virtually every contractor can hit that level if they ask enough questions up front before they sign the contract. Again, that's part of the estimating system I was talking about earlier.
Well, one of the systems that I've seen people put in place, and Michael, I'm not sure if you know this, but I host another show that's just for cabinetry and architectural millwork. And there's a rule that floats around in that industry, which is no designer, no deal. Because guys that are really good at building cabinets may not have a designer on staff. So if somebody walks in off the street and says, "Can you help me build my kitchen?" Of course they can, but they're not set up to be a design house. And so they don't charge for it right. These people eat their time. They don't know what they want. And the process drags for months. And so what you'll find with the senior companies in that industry is no designer, no deal. You're either going to use our designer or you're going to come to us with a designer, but you can't walk in off the street and get something built. We just don't work that way. No. And you see the same thing happen with people in other industries as well. It has to require some level of design, right? General contracting. But if you don't have a plan, how can we ever get the job accomplished?
Well, doesn't that apply to all jobs?
It should.
Yeah. This is what I say. If you do the same thing the same way every single time, which means you've got a set of plans that you're working from.
Yeah. I learned to be a house painter from following a system. You walk to the front of the house, you worked from left to right. From the front of the house, you went to the right side of the house, then you went to the back, then you did the left side. So our estimates always followed the same process. Yep. And you think, well, that's stupid. Who cares? Well, then I know where to put the equipment. When it says the second window has this kind of paint failure, my guys knew that wherever it was based on the form, well, the second window is already automatically on the right side. It was that second side of the house. It always followed a process.
Or you got rot in one of the window stools or something like that.
Something, right? But it always just came. It was the same system. I was much younger then, so I don't think I appreciated the power of systems. But even today, when I walk up and I have to do ladder work on my house, I follow this stupid little system they trained us, which is you take some pebbles and you stand at the first corner of the house. Let's say your left hand is at the first corner of the house. Your right hand is towards inside of the, where you're going to continue along the property. And out of your right hand, you drop a pebble. And then you move over and you drop another pebble, another 2 arms widths. So now I've already planned my ladder moves before I start this side of the house. Planning your ladder moves. I mean, how insanely anal is that? But I still do it now. I'm 53 years old. I still plan my ladder moves when I put up my Christmas lights.
Why shouldn't roofers do the same thing?
Why shouldn't they do it? Yeah. Right.
That's part of the system.
Because it's cost of labor. It's safety. It's taking things into account. It's that big perspective of looking at a job. Like, we're going to have to tie back that bush. Okay, that bush is going to take 3 ladder moves. I need to know that. Because that's time. It's going to take my guy 5 minutes every time. And you know what 5 minutes is when I delegate it to somebody else?
About 30. Well, they say this is one of the things you learn real quick in estimating, and you never estimate a job based on your time. It's always your time plus 30% for anybody else. And if you do that, you're going to be right. And you never estimate a job by the hour. It's in multiples. If I look at a job and I think I can do that in about an hour and a half, no, that's 2.5 or 3 hours is what I put on my estimate sheet. If I estimate 4 hours, I put down 6. If I got 2 guys working on a job, there's no such thing as 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It's either 4 hours or 8 hours with 2 guys working on a job.
Right.
If you don't, you're going to end up short because they'll figure out a way to take a 6-hour job and make it last all day. They do it every time.
Yeah. Well, I think you already said it here. You have a choice of being competitive, but you don't have a choice to be profitable. It's a great quote. Really good. Yeah. And so I have to bid these jobs so that I'm profitable when I win them. And right now is the greatest time ever because there's just so much work out there.
Today's marketplace, you don't have to worry about being competitive. That's baloney. You know, if you listen to you start working for commercial contractors, they'll say, oh, your price is too high.
Well, that's the only script they have.
Based on what?
Because I know because I coach commercial contractors and they come to me with that script. We tell everybody they're too high and then we let them sort themselves out. We've got 3 guys we go to.
I wouldn't work for people like that.
But they all do it. Their first answer, that's what they learned from their dad, their uncle, the GC they worked for before. You say, tell everybody they're too high. And they laugh about it in the hallways. You're too high.
But how is that fair to the guy out in the field?
I'm just telling you what I hear. Right?
Oh, I understand.
And at that point, they're coming to sit with me because they need to change some things in their company.
Yeah, because then they can't figure out why they can't keep good specialty contractors working for them or their own employees don't stick around. It's because to me, that's a dishonest approach of doing business. If you're going to be dishonest, might as well get out of it because you ain't going to last.
Do something else.
Yeah.
When am I ready to delegate estimating to somebody else in my company? I'm the owner. I'm doing all the estimating myself right now. Let's say I'm doing just roofing, just as an example. When am I ready to pass that on to somebody else with trust?
Well, the proper way to pass that along is you bring somebody on, you make them their assistant. They follow you for a week. The second week, you start giving them details of things that they need to do, prices to run down, people to talk to. Do that for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is. Then by the end of the second month, you ought to be giving them small jobs to kind of go out and look and come back with the estimate back to you. So you've always got your finger right on what they're doing. Right. And it takes about 3 months to train somebody if they know what they're doing. Right. And it takes, and I have told many people that if you're selling remodeling, estimator salesperson should be one and the same as far as I'm concerned. But a good estimator salesperson in remodeling takes 5 years to train them. And if you try to send them out, if you try to send them out less than that, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
it takes a long time.
Yeah. So when they go out, you keep your finger on what they're doing, and they're not allowed to sell anything unless you approve it. That keeps you out of trouble. You're not going to catch all of it. You'll catch a hell of a lot more than these guys that just send them, go out and sell something, bring it out, let's get going.
I learned something from a gentleman that owns a whole number of trade franchises up in the Pacific Northwest. And he and I both spoke at a conference, and afterwards we were having a beer at the, as you do after sitting at the, and that's the most valuable time of a conference. Let's be honest. Guys like you and I get up and talk, and that's pretty good. But the value is actually when you go to a conference and you interact with the other people at the show and you're talking about whatever you and I just talked about on stage. I'm the first one to say it, and I'm the guy on stage. So there's got to either I'm a horrible presenter or there's some truth in that. But he and I were both presenters, and we were talking, having a beer. And he said, you either, when it comes to people, you're either hiring the wrong people or you hired the right people and you trained them wrong. Right? You're either hiring the wrong people or you hired the right people and you trained them wrong. And what I took from that is it's my personal responsibility. I can control me. I can control what we call onboarding. I can control, like you said, that process of training an estimator. Here's how we do it. Here's who we are as a company. Here's how we price. Here's how we buy our materials. Here's how we estimate a home for labor. Here's how we estimate for whatever the thing is. But it's up to me. So if anybody listening says, well, you don't understand my market, we have horrible people, then I'm going to come back and you're nodding, you're shaking your head.
Let me tell you a little story.
Yeah.
This little cowboy has done seminars in 46 states and 3 Canadian provinces. Everybody says, well, my business is different. My town is different. And I'm saying, oh, no, it's not. Yeah. If you're in Vancouver, BC, Miami, Florida, New York City, Los Angeles, every one of those guys has the exact same problems. But I don't know, 8-10 years ago, I got a phone call from an electrical contractor in Rome, Italy. And he said, Michael, what do I do?
Those are my people.
What do I do? My customers are telling me my price is too high. Can you imagine somebody saying that to a contractor?
Yeah. In Rome, Italy, of all
Rome,
places.
Italy, called all the way into our office here, and we're in Camas, Washington, which is just northeast of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And we've got clients in 44 countries around the world. And I don't care where you are, the problems are exactly the same. You want to try to be competitive, you're going to go out of business. You want to sell a job at a good profit, chances are you'll make it.
Yeah. I talked about this on a previous podcast, but another reason this is one of the greatest times ever to be in business is because of this conversation you and I are having right now, that somebody can download on their phone and listen to in their car. You wouldn't have been able to do this 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You're just not going to. And yet today, somebody can listen to this episode while they're walking their dog.
Yeah.
And get some wisdom, get some insight. And if I grew up in Camas, I think the world is Camas. If I grew up in Portland, I think the world is Portland. And so I don't get the perspective of knowing, hey, there's an electrical contractor in Rome who's got the same problem as me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
By the way, I know Italians real well. They always complain about price. That's a point of pride.
Why would I think you know something about Italians?
Because I've got no neck and one eyebrow. I'm Italian. That's the calling card right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Now this, like you said, this can be a very lucrative business, but you have to have the discipline to do it correctly. And there's no room for error in this business, because you got error in your business, it's coming out of your pocketbook.
Well, listen, you've got a couple of books that we can refer people to. So why don't we start to wind things down? If people want to get in touch with you, how do we find you in this wide world? And can you hold up your books again, one at a time, so people can see them?
This is a book we wrote in 1998, came out with it. All right. And It's called Markup. Actually, here's the one. This is the one I wrote in 1998 right here. This is the original
cover,
book.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, different. This is the first one that came out. Okay. And then in 2012, we came out with this reversion. Notice it says revisited.
Revisited, yeah.
And we changed about 45, 50% of the book because the other stuff was old and outdated. And we come up with a whole bunch of new stuff. So then in the meantime, in 2007, I wrote this book.
Profitable Sales, a Contractor's Guide. And allow me to just say this for people who are listening as a podcast. Just search on Amazon, Michael C. Stone, or search on our podcast episode here. There'll be links, but Michael's books are all listed there. So you've got Profitable Sales, you've got Markup and Profit. You've got another one you said coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, we have a new book called Estimating Construction Profitably. And this is not about doing the numbers. It's about developing the system that you and I talked about. And it's got like 19 or 20 chapters in it. It's a small book. It's less than 100 pages. But if you take that thing, it will take you step by step how to build a system for your individual company. Okay, for your own company, whatever you want to do. It doesn't make a difference. It shows you exactly how to do that, so that when you get done, you got a system and you can say, I'll take that job right there and I'm going to estimate that. And you'll have that job estimated under 2% error factor if you follow what I give you.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
and I've got a number of coaching clients that I have taught my system to that have error factors under 1%. Error factor under 1%. And that means that their estimates, their job costing shows that their estimated amounts and their actual job costs are just that close together.
Dialed in.
Yeah, they got it. And these guys do $2 and $3-4 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they're estimating a lot of work and they're right dead on. And anyway, but you asked me how to get a hold of us.
How do we get a hold of you?
Well, here, Construction Programs and Results, and look on the internet. It's markupandprofit.com. We've got a webpage on you get on our webpage and you could sit there for a month reading free materials with subjects just like you and I've talked about on a whole variety of. Yeah, one time we had over 1,000 articles on there. We've got it way down now. It's probably around 300 or 400 articles. But we pared that down and cleaned it up, and it kind of reduced because of the algorithms on some of Google and some of those others. They got tired of looking through all that stuff, so we kind of condensed, cleaned it up, and
sure.
And
well, there's so you have lots of resources for contractors, which I love. I serve the market the same as you do, and I sometimes we need to hear the message a couple different times, a couple different ways before it gets through. What I've enjoyed is, and this is really, if I say this is the first time you and I have spoken, that's not true, because we had a brief intro call. but we haven't really spoken before today. And yet we agree on systems. We agree on process. We agree on profits. We agree that a contractor has to take care of themselves so that they can take care of others.
Well, that's one of the things I tell people. Devin and I have built our business by helping contractors take care of their families.
Love it.
It's got that is nothing else. If I'm doing my job, they're doing their job right, and they can take care of their family. They can get their wife a new car or new clothing if they want, and they can send the kids to college, and they can help the family next door who lost everything through a fire or whatever, and it doesn't hurt them, you know. But this is a great business. I just absolutely, the people in this business are the salt of the earth. They really are.
Love it.
And I'll tell you one other thing. You hear a lot of these newspapers and television stations and everybody ragging on contractors. Oh, they're terrible, blah, 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 blah. Only about 3 to 4% of all contractors are not the salt of the earth, like I said a minute ago. They're going to cause problems no matter what. But I would bet you the percentage of contractors that cause problems for other people is less than a hell of a lot of other trades that I can think of. Okay. Medical profession for one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Graveyards are full of their mistakes. Well, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate it. We may have you back in the future to tell when the book actually tell me when the book comes out. I'd love to have a read. If you need me to review it, happy to help however I can. All right.
Yeah. It'll be out this month in June. And
good. Okay.
That's what I'm starting to work on. Next week, I'll be doing the audio recording of the book. So that will be, you got the video, the printed book, and you'll have an audio that you can take and listen to your headphones as you're driving all over town, whatever.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Michael. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate it, bud.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.